Okay, so this is going to be the Salesforce Basics training. I know some of you may have some experience with Salesforce, some of you have very little, some of you have more, but we're going to go from the very beginning and through as many of the topics as I can cover to kind of give you a foundation. I highly encourage anybody who's interested to sign up for the other trainings as well, because obviously that will help you get a better grasp on some of the more advanced stuff, and there can be a lot of advanced stuff. So, but starting out with the basics, also say please do interrupt with any questions. I'm just going to keep plowing forward. If you have a question, the presentation is taking up all of my screen, so make sure that you do vocalize it, because I won't be able to see any gestures or anything in the comments of the chat. So if it's something that isn't time sensitive, you can put it in the chat. We'll cover it at the end. Otherwise, just feel free to interrupt me, and we'll just do it as we're on that slide. So moving forward, everyone knows that we've been talking about Salesforce a lot, but what is Salesforce exactly? Salesforce is a cloud-based customer relationship management system, or a CRM system. Essentially, it includes a lot of different services all packaged together. Some of those are included with Salesforce, some are at an additional cost, but it's focused on customer service, marketing automation, analytics, and application development. And obviously, we don't use the application development, but we do have aspects of customer service, marketing, and a lot of analytics built into Salesforce for our particular Salesforce build. And Salesforce is the #1 customer relationship management system in the world. When I first used Salesforce back in 2006, there were 6 or 7 major CRMs. That has been cut down to about 3, but market share from Salesforce went from about 12% up to, I think it's around 60% now. So 60% of people who use a customer relationship management system use Salesforce in one way or another. And of course, we are one of the companies that uses it. But obviously that may beg another question. What is a customer relationship management system? Well, CRM is a customer relationship management system. And an integrated CRM platform allows all departments, marketing, sales, service, support, and any additional departments that we may have. We have some other specialized departments as well. But it gives them a single shared view of every single client. And the idea here would be that the sales funnels are created. Essentially, it's a way of tracking first contact with someone who may become a client through the process of signing on that client through the signing, and then service after the sale, depending on what kind of client they are, what kind of service we're going to give them. But one of the things that we've had a problem with in the past has been handoffs. And those of you who have been in the many incarnations of the contracts team will know that those handoffs can be really important, and we found them to be very difficult in Create. So essentially, just to give you a brief overview, and I'll touch on it a little more later, but one of the teams will handle the signing process, the sales funnel process of a client, but oftentimes it may be a different team that will handle the customer service for that client. And obviously we have a separate support team that handles that completely on their own. We have a marketing team. Separate from marketing, there's ad sales. We're working on having a separate team for commercial clients. And the CRM gives us the ability to all share information without having to go look to an individual for it. So, for instance, all of you are in this meeting for 90 minutes. And if there's a client who you're responsible for and someone else is looking for information, they may hit you up on Slack, or they may call you, or they may send you an email. But for the 90 minutes that you're in here, it is likely that it's going to go without being answered. So that can cause a problem if something needs to be done quickly. But if that information that you have is stored in our CRM, then it means that everyone, including that person who's looking for it, can get access to it. So if we need to reach out to a client, making sure that we have up-to-date client contacts and making sure that their contact information is up-to-date means that instead of me hitting up someone to find an email address or a phone number, I can just go to that account in Salesforce, I can find the contact, I can make sure that I'm choosing the contact that has the correct role, and then I can find the contact information for that contact and either send them an email or give them a call, whichever makes the most sense. So it essentially allows everyone for all over to see the same view of every client. And our support team has had especially some difficulty with being able to get answers on whose client is this, who should I reach out for responses. The ideal system is one in which there is no person you need to reach out to, because the support team would be able to find the answers to every single question that they need within the platform itself. So if somebody says, why are you claiming this track for me? You don't have rights to that. Well, we can go back through, find the account, find the opportunity, find the schedule to that agreement, and then also look at the track schedule and or the tracks that we are currently using, and do those match up? Have they been authorized? If not, then maybe that person is correct. If it is clearly there on the agreement, then yes, you gave us authorization to monetize this. Here, I can send you a copy of the agreement. It's all been properly executed, and the track is there. So it essentially means that instead of being a web of connected people, that this outer shell can be created around all our clients, where at any point in that shell, you can reach and find information about the clients without going back out to the outside. It's all from the outside to the clients that remain on the inside. So what are the benefits of Salesforce? Salesforce is unique, and it has gained such a market share. It is the #1 CRM for a couple of reasons. Deployment and updating can be done live, so it is fast to make changes. I've been on calls with people, and we have done live updates where as I make changes and they hit refresh, they can see the changes happen immediately. And this can be important as we'll find out about the UI and making changes to the UI for each individual team. But it's also really easy to use. Everything is connected, and there's essentially, as you'll see in a few minutes, there's going to be things that are blue and things that are black text. Blue text is interactable, black text is not. Anything that's interactable will take you to yet another record, and essentially all of the related records for any account are all interconnected right to the account. So it's easy to find things once you know where they are. You can kind of spend less time searching for information, as some of you have been doing over the past few weeks, by digging through G drives or asking people to check their emails or looking through your own emails or looking through Slack. It makes it easy to find information, and we can actually get more done that way. It helps proficiency go up. But it's also effective because it's easy to use for us, the Salesforce client, and it's easy for us to help our clients do whatever they need to get done. As I said, like having the support team be able to find an answer without reaching out to another person would make their job so much easier. And if it's used correctly, if Salesforce is used correctly, it can be fast, easy, and effective. But we need to have the participation of everyone to make sure that that's the case. More importantly, I think Salesforce is in the cloud, and in times like these, it means that we can use it from anywhere. When I first used Salesforce in 2006, it actually lived on a server at the company that I was working at. So there was no such thing as working from home then at all, really. But even if I had been able to work from home, I wouldn't have been able to access any information about my clients. I would have had to go into the office to pull it off the server and then print pages or put that information on a jump drive in order to take it home with me. But because Salesforce is in the cloud, it means that even though we may be spread over 4 time zones, and something like 10 states right now, we can all have access to the same information. Probably most importantly for Create, its scalability of Salesforce is basically unparalleled. We spent 2 years trying to figure out how to use Salesforce effectively. Once we finally figured that out, we have been able to go from a company that had about 1,500 regular clients to one that has about 4,000 regular clients, and we've done so without missing a beat. Because everything, once you set up a system within Salesforce, scales to every other thing that's like that within Salesforce. So it makes it very easy to use and can scale up as we go towards 10,000 clients and even 50,000 clients. We'll be able to do the same thing. And that's true about our staff as well. We started out with 15 people on the platform. In the next year, we're going to be moving up to 65 to 75 people on the platform. And scalability is both for the client side and for the user side. Because basically I can say, I want to take all of the permissions of this person and give them to this person, and it's a copy and paste effect. Or I can say I want to do the same permissions, but instead of the genre EDM, I want to use the genre pop, and now I've created a duplicate but allow them to access different types of records. And so that kind of scalability makes it really easy to bring people onto the platform once they get to know how to use it. And one of the things that I really like about Salesforce is its integration with third-party apps. We have already currently integrated Salesforce with Gmail. We've also integrated it with Slack, although not a lot of teams are using that. We can dig into that into a future training and talk about how to better use those integrations. But we can also integrate it with the accounting software that we use, NetSuite. It has an open API platform, which means we'll be able to develop our own API to Label Engine, and that's in the planning in the future. And we'll get into kind of how the data is going to move between our different nodes by the end of this. Some key terms that I'll use interchangeably, but that people should know. Salesforce is also known as SFDC or Salesforce.com. Salesforce is based in San Francisco, so obviously, while I have a habit of calling it SF, people who work at the company don't, because SF is also the city where they are located. So SFDC became like their short-term acronym for the platform, and I will use SFDC and SF and Salesforce all interchangeably. They all mean the same thing. UI is the user interface. It's essentially the way that you interact with the records. That's just important because I'll use the term UI a lot, and just so you know, essentially the UI is how you access the information. Facebook has a UI. Instagram has a UI, and you're familiar with both of those. Instagram is a scrolling timeline UI that is out of order. It's based on algorithm. Facebook has a scrolling timeline as well. However, it also has three separate sections where the left and the right are nav areas. I think there's actually a nav area at the top as well. The center section is your scrolling timeline, or it's interactive. So if you move to a different part of Facebook, you only change the middle section of what you see. That's all UI development. And for most of the teams, well, for some of the teams, they're using actually something very similar to Facebook, with a header, with two nav areas on the left and right, and the main data area in the center, and you'll see that in a bit. I also have already used and will continue to use the term sales funnel. Sales funnel is a process that we take a new contact to a signed client. There are always far more at the very beginning than at the end, and that's why we call it a funnel, because you'll start out with, let's say, 10,000 prospects. That goes down to 5,000 leads. That will turn into 1,000 accounts and might turn into 500 signed clients. So as it gets thinner and you go down, we create a funnel. So topics that we're going to go over today are the UI itself, record relationships, locating those records, basic record types, leads, accounts, opportunities, schedules, and contacts. And these are all the ones that we started out with 2 years ago, and the ones that we're going to continue to use. This is actually what you might think of as like the central node of data collection in Salesforce, and everything that we do basically builds or connects to one of these nodes. Salesforce offers a very diverse UI. The UI is just the presentation of the record data. Essentially, all records in Salesforce should and they can contain all the same data. However, that data can be presented to the user in many different ways, very unique ways based on the team. Essentially, each team can decide how they want that data to display. And when a record is moved from one team to another, although the data inside may not change, the way it's presented to the user may change. So again, in that situation where, for example, Nadeem and the global team are signing a client, however, the client makes hip hop music. Well, Nadeem and his team may see all the data in a certain function, but when the hip hop team opens up that very same record, they will see the same data presented in a different way. And I'll have more clarity for that in a visual in just a second. We've already set up several of these unique user interfaces for several of the teams. Here's a great example. The ad sales team has a much more simplified UI build because they are only looking for certain information that they want to have, whereas the global team, as a sales and service team, has a more complex data UI. On the left-hand side, you can see the ad sales team. Their focus is basically only on user data. They want to see what is going on with this account. And then obviously, you can see in the right nav bar there, the account team, the related contacts, the opportunities, and their open activities. That's really what they focus on. Moving to the right-hand column, the global team. This is the exact same client. It's Wenji. I didn't wait for the data to load. Apologies on that before I did my screenshot. But you could see that for Wenji in the global account team, they also have the account team. They are including things like the related contacts, the opportunities, but we also have the create music contracts attached to it. There's a notes field. There are duplicate checks because they're the ones who are going to be actually servicing this client. They have the release calendar, Slack, milestone projects, which is what we use as our project management software. Essentially, they just have more information presented in a way that's more easily navigated, and that's because that's what's important to them. Whereas the ad sales team is only looking for, is this a client? What opportunities do we have? What are the splits on those opportunities? And that information, and who might we contact on the team? And that's what's easily available for them in their UI. So as I kind of described earlier, here's the sales funnel. We used to start just with leads. We actually now do have a prospects object, and the POP team especially is using the prospects object a lot. But right now we have the ability for global and EDM to also use the prospects object. What this allows us to do is to have people on the team be assigned just to prospect farming. And they can just enter data for random artists that they think might be a good match for Create, someone we might want to reach out to. When a certain amount of information is gathered and it reaches the point at which each individual team has decided, hey, this is where somebody else should be brought into the conversation, then it can be marked ready for contact. At that point, a message goes out to whoever on that team is going to be in charge of that, and they will then reach out to the person. As we move closer and closer to a signed contract, we go from prospects to leads. Leads is we've reached out, they've actually responded, and we're in talks now about the possibility of them becoming a client. When it gets in the conversation, it's not about becoming a client, but what are the exact details of how we might build this relationship. You then convert from a lead to an account. Each account also has an opportunity and contacts attached to it. You'll see that in just a few minutes. And from the converted accounts, we have signed clients. And as I pointed out earlier, you may have 10,000 prospects. That leads to 5,000 leads, which leads to 1,000 converted accounts and 500 signed clients. Our turnover rate is actually much higher than that. We are something around 70%. So not necessarily just prospects, but if a lead is created, there's a 70% chance that will have a signed client at the end of the discussion. But the number of active contacts goes down as you go through the sales funnel. This is the basic layout of a simplified layout of how our Salesforce system is set up. We start with prospects, and there you get some artist information, some contact information, and social media and DSP information. Once certain thresholds are met and a conversation is started by someone on the team, it is then converted to a lead. The lead takes the information about the artist, the contact, the social media DSP info, and actually just moves it to a new category and a new object. And this process is automatic. You don't have to do anything. But it also provides more fields, more information can be entered, more information can be gathered at the lead stage. When we're getting closer to a contract, then we would convert that lead to an account, a contact, and an opportunity. It essentially separates all that data that is held in one object of a lead out into several different objects so that we can start relating it more to our general information in the rest of our system. At conversion, an account is created, a contact is created, and an opportunity is created. The artist information is moved to the account. The contact information is moved to the contact, and then the social media DSP info helps let us know what kind of opportunities we are going to send to this client. It doesn't necessarily move all that information over, but it kind of guides us about what opportunities we may want to create. And you'll see a little bit more about this in just a second. This is an even more simplified view without the prospects version, but we just started a lead. A lead becomes a contact, opportunity, and account. The opportunity and the contact information is combined, and we send that out via Congo right now and DocuSign in just a few months to the client. The client signs the agreement, and then that information updates the opportunity, the contact, and the account, and now we have a signed client. So this is a more complex look at how Salesforce is set up. This is after the lead has been converted to an account. And we have separate objects that are not accessible by everyone, but essentially share information back and forth and update each other. So the account and contact are connected by another object called the account contact relationship. And a contact can be related to many accounts, and an account can have many contacts. So it allows us to have more than one person associated with any one account. It also allows more than one account to be associated with any individual person. So for instance, if there is a manager and that manager has 5 clients, each of those clients would become an account. The manager themselves would be a contact on all of those accounts. So there we have a one-to-many relationship. But that actually works the opposite way as well, which creates a many-to-many relationship, because that account may have the manager as a contact, but it also may have the artist as a contact. So when the artist is a contact for a single account, they will not be a contact for all the other accounts. So we can have the ability to have that account have a contact that is a single person, that's only for them, as well as this manager who is also the contact for 4 other accounts. And those 4 other accounts may have secondary, tertiary contacts as well, where they get either a relationship only to that one account or to many. And it's very important that as you move forward, you define what the relationship is between the contact and the account. We have several categories. We can always add more. I'm always looking for feedback on that. But essentially you could choose for that is the artist themselves, it is a manager, it's just a primary contact, which may not be anyone in an official role, but it's the person that this artist relies on, or the artist may be the primary contact. And you can use those combined. You can add lawyers, you can add accountants, you can add business managers as something separate than regular managers. And all of those relationships are tracked through the account-contact relationship. Contact roles are something that connects the opportunity to the contact. And the opportunity actually uses the account-contact relationship to bring in account data and contact data combined into the opportunity. So an opportunity is looking to several objects for updates. It's looking for the contact role to see how does this person relate. It's looking for the account-contact relationship to see what this person relationship this person has with an account. And it takes data from the account directly. Things like an address would be updated in the opportunity through the account. For a CPA, the YouTube link would be stored on the account. It will always live there, but we'll need it for a CPA. So the opportunity of a CPA opportunity will look to the account to get the CPA link and bring it in. You can also see, so the red lines that you see here are essentially one-way updates. It's the arrow end pulling data from the non-arrow end. So account-contact relationship is pulling data from account and contact. The account and the contact do not pull any data from the account-contact relationship. You'll see lines that have 2 arrows on the ends. Those are ones where it's a give and take relationship back between the 2 objects. Starting in the top left, you have owner and account team. So this is connecting the account to the user's object. The user's object just stores data for everyone who is in Salesforce as a user. An account can only have one owner, so it is always owned by one person. However, we have the ability to give other people access to that account and give them the opportunity to make modifications to the account. And this is how a team can work together on a single account. So using, again, the hip hop team, for example, Nicole may be the owner of an account. However, Charles and Josh can both be on the account team for that account and be able to update information on that account as necessary. The same goes for opportunity. Kind of in the center of the screen, you'll see another green line and a blue line. The opportunities have owners and opportunity teams. The owner, there can only be one, and it's usually owned by the person who creates it. Generally speaking, again, using that example, Nicole would be the owner of the account. She'll create the initial opportunity to send out to someone, but things may need to be updated later, like we are doing right now with the contracts review. So the opportunity team, which would have Josh and Charles on it as well, gives them the ability to make changes to that opportunity either before or after it's closed in order to make sure it's up to date to the contract that's actually signed. The orange lines are more about our process of signing contracts and moving forward to the post-contract or to the post-signing process. Moving from top to bottom of orange lines, you can see that the account is connected to tracks. Now that will come into play after signing, but the next line down is account connecting to schedules. Schedules are lists of songs that are attached to a contract that let us know what we have the authority to do. So for a distro contract, let's say that we're going to have an EP that has 8 tracks on it. We're able to list out all 8 tracks. We're able to say what is the ownership share for publishing or master recording, and all of that's able to be dictated by the schedule object. and that relates back to the account. The opportunity has a relation to the tracks object and to the schedule object. Apologies, I missed one of the lines here. This black line that's in the center should be orange. And then after everything is signed, we create what's called a create music contract, which helps us keep track of renewals versus new opportunities versus terminations. And that relates both to the schedule items and to the track items, which are essentially the same thing. Opportunities and tracks themselves will relate to CongaSign and DocuSign. This gives us the ability to send out contracts to clients for electronic signature. And in the future, it gives us the ability to send out a track list as an update to a client, just so they can acknowledge that, yes, you're authorized to use all of these songs or to claim all of these songs. The Create Music Contracts also is connected to DocuSign and CongaSign. Right now, our renewals are automatic. So essentially, if you reach the end of the term and you have not told us that you want to terminate, it just renews based on the same terms. But in the future, if we have clients who want to do a renewal, but they want to sign a renewal, we'll be able to create those just copies of the Create Music Contract and send those out via DocuSign. So I wanted to dive a little bit more into schedules. I kind of went into details there a little bit, but here you can kind of see that schedule item pulled out. Schedule is the attachment as a whole to the end of a contract. In the schedules object in Salesforce, we have different items. So item 1, item 2, item 3 as it's listed here. Each of those items has the artist, the title, the album, and ownership information. And all of those individual items are associated with a schedule list. That schedule list is associated with an account, and it's also associated with an opportunity. And here is the tracks. So I will get into this a little bit more as we kind of walk through the process, but tracks are created automatically at signing. Everything that's on the schedule will become a track once the contract is executed by both parties. So when it exists as a schedule item, it will still always exist as a schedule item attached to a contract or an opportunity, but it will also exist as a track. And these tracks will allow us to do things like have dynamic track lists. So instead of keeping track of the client master list and saying, do we have this artist? Okay, I can find on our master list, the client is still there. Great. Now let me search for the schedule for that artist in Google Drive. And let's see, do we have a schedule 1? Do we have a schedule 2? What do we have? The tracks object is going to allow us to have dynamic lists. So as things are added in, they're automatically added to the track list. That's something that will be developed in the future via API and Label Engine. But now you can manually add tracks in or delete tracks out. So if a client says, hey, I actually sold all my interest in this song, you can go in and mark that track terminated, and now it won't show up in lists anymore. Let's look at some examples of the things I was just talking about. First, we'll go and look at a prospect. If it's going to let me open it up, which apparently it won't. Here we go. Open hyperlink. You also see the Winter 21 update gives us our Salesforce has like open screens. Formerly it was a dog with a butterfly. Now it's a little winter creature, like a Sasquatch, kid in a Sasquatch costume. So you saw that load screen. But here's a prospect for one of the hottest new rappers out there, Daryl, Jon. This is something that we used for our release calendar submission test last week. But this is just information that you might enter for any contract or for any prospect. As I said, you can have someone on your team doing prospect farming, where they're just looking for who are the top 100 artists right now on Spotify or on SoundCloud or whoever, and entering that information in. They can get the artist name, the artist legal first and last name, the contact first and last name, what's the role of that contact, and then our status field here is the one that we would look at to kind of move things forward. New is obviously one that you just created, gathering data, working. When I am ready to send a notification to my manager or to one of the A&Rs on the team that this person this is all the information we're going to get. And there may be different ways that you guys on your teams will set these rules. It may be, as you can see, this is more of the breakdown for a pop prospect right now, but they wanted to include the Spotify link, the monthly listener count, and the number of followers, the YouTube link, the YouTube subscribers, and then any additional link they may have, and then some stuff from social media like Instagram. And basically when these hit a certain threshold, like, hey, the Spotify, they have a monthly listener count that's this number and followers that are this number, and their subs have hit this number, then they know that their internal policies have been met and it's ready to ready for contact. And then you change the status to ready for contact. It'll send a message and a notification automatically to whoever on the team is scheduled to do that, and let them know that, hey, it's now your turn. You need to reach out to this person. And that next person then goes through the initial contact, the discussion, and when that discussion is kind of moving forward and it looks like we might be moving in a good direction, they can mark it move to lead. When you mark it move to lead, that actually will create a lead automatically using all the information that exists as in the prospect. So it'll take all of this and just copy it into a lead item where you can now have it in the lead, which also has additional fields, and it has a different process that we need to go through. We'll see that in 1 second. If one comes in through the ASUF in the future, we'll be marking that as, this is for the POP team, that if we have a lead already, because they did send in the ASUF, then you would put the status submitted ASUF. That takes it out of your active leads. You can also just mark it inactive if after some discussion, we've figured that we're not going to be moving forward with this client. But this will just allow all the teams to have prospect farming, to keep track of whatever, and these are just examples. You could put in whatever you would like for this, of what standard does a person need to meet before they're ready to join, create as a client. Now, I did have to do something alternative for the lead, because once you have a lead and then you convert it to an account and an opportunity and a contact, the lead will actually be hidden at that point. You won't be able to find it anymore. And I could find it, but I wasn't sure that it would be a good example because no one else would be able to find this example in Salesforce if they were looking for it. So instead, I just pulled a different one, which is for Caesar. And Caesar is somebody who's known to create. A lot of you probably know him, but so you can see that it has some of the similar fields. It has the YouTube, it has the Instagram, it also has additional social media. It has his name and his name as the artist, his name as the contact, and just some additional fields, as well as this little bar at the top. The bar at the top is essentially a sales process, and it says what data you should or you're looking for at any particular step along the way. This one is one of the older sales processes, so you can see it has a lot of steps. I think POPs has 5 steps right now, which is one of the more simple ones. But as you move along and you gather more information and you have phone calls and you have meetings, you can update all of those things and move things forward from and through the converted status. Converted status means we are moving it from a lead to an account, which I won't do because I don't know for certain why this was created, so I don't want to screw any of that up. But once you convert it, as I kind of pointed out earlier, you'll create an account, an opportunity, and a contact. This is an example for an account going back to Daryl JON. And again, all the information from the lead that is applicable to the account is moved there automatically. Everything that is applicable to the contact is moved there automatically. So if we can look on the prospect, and theoretically this would have gone, and not just theoretically, it did get moved to the lead and then from the lead to the account. You can see that the artist name and the artist's legal name is here, the contact name is here, and if I look over on the account, the artist name is here, and all of that information got moved over, including the contact that got created that's related. That is me, obviously. The information from the lead would have been moved over if that had been filled out. Here's a spot for address that's also on the lead, and it could be moved over. But then we have additional fields, like the PRO affiliation is a field here. And payment information is here. And there's actually more that's just not available on this view. But you'll also see that the prospect had a very simple, basically a one-frame view. Lead has a couple of nav items, but mostly just that one-frame view as well. Once we get to an account, we have a much more complicated view that includes the client tier. It includes a duplicate check, the contacts, opportunities, the contracts, notes. Over on this side, the account team, Slack updates, release calendar submissions, and the release calendar as a whole, our project manager software, and then any related Slack messages in a chat style here. Almost all objects in Salesforce will also have chatter. Chatter is just an internal conversation that happens that's directly tied to this particular item, this object, the account. So while Max could send me a Slack message that says, hey, can you check out DeRealJON? I'm having a problem with this on there. Then I have to go in and search for it. I have to make sure I'm looking at the right one. We have to confirm that information. Instead, if I just add him here, he'll get a notification like I have up here. You can see that there, up here, Josh mentioned me in a post. So that would actually take me directly to the post. And I'll just use that as an example. We'll go directly there. Actually, I think he just sent me a chatter in regular chatter. But here, this would send you directly to the post. I'll see if there's an example of that. Yeah. So here, Carl sent me a message on the chatter for this particular client. I can get a link directly to Carl. I can find more information about him. I just told him I sent him an explanation on Slack, but if I click on the client itself, it takes me directly to the account. I can see all of the opportunities that are associated. I see the contacts. I see all the information associated with this particular account. So Chatter allows us to basically send links along with a message in a way that Slack just doesn't allow you to do. Related to that is the opportunities. Right now, generally any client will have 3 opportunities for full service, which is distro, CMA, and CPA. We are moving forward with a combined distro, CMA, CPA. So that'll allow you to put all 3 in one. That's what we're using here. You can see that I double up my contact roles here for some reason. But it pulls information from the lead as necessary. It takes information from the account. It takes information from the contacts. And a lot of this is still in testing, so you can see some of my testing fields here. But because I don't have an address on the account, I now don't have an address on the opportunity. If I was to go back to the account, let's do that, and update the address here, if I can find it, here we go. And let's say that I just make this the address for the building, 1320 North Wilton Place. And it automatically changed that, so be careful of those, obviously. And I save that. Now I have an address here. If I go over to the opportunity, you'll see that the opportunity now also has an address in it. So it's pulling information automatically from the account. And that's why these interrelated records make things so easy. Instead of me having to retype out the address, which I might make an error on, I might just put 1320 Wilton Place or Wilton Street. And now if we wanted to send a message to them and somebody was referred to the contact in the future, that address would be incorrect. But it allows you to put even more details about this particular agreement, including any advances that we might have, collection period and distribution rights. CMA, CPA can be added to this distro agreement, and individual terms for those. We'll go into those a little more in the advanced training tomorrow. So opportunities also have schedule items. So let's go take a look at that. Schedule items, again, are a list of tracks that we're authorized to do. So on this DeRealJON distro agreement, here is the schedule. Here are the songs that he's going to be distroing with us. Don't talk to me about music, Yaz. Jonathan is as Jonathan does, and create music group better have my music. So those are the 3 tracks. And if we go back to opportunity, you'll see that those items are actually listed right here. So that will go into a table at the end of the contract. And because this one has been marked close 1, those tracks, these schedule items, have been duplicated into tracks, which actually allows me to go into the track itself and see the account, the opportunity. I can go to that schedule record. There's a record of the schedule item attached to it. Anything that's on that schedule record will also go to the track. And master title, artist share, the artist, track type, track number, etc. There's a whole lot of information we can fill out here, including information for the second and third artists as necessary. And pitching information. For the future, we're looking to get pitching involved in there as well. So essentially, the schedule items just allow us to do a quick update, so we have something for the contract. Then it creates tracks, and tracks are what we would update moving forward in the future. When a contract is signed, it then creates a record on the object known as the Create Music Contracts. essentially all this does is allow for our auto-renewing contracts. So you can see this contract was signed on the 20th of 2020. It will end on the 20th of 2021. Right now it is still active. It has some of the details from the account, some of the details from the opportunity, but most importantly, it has a status here, which is active. When you mark it terminated, you don't mark the contract terminated, you mark the opportunity or the account terminated if the client decides they want to terminate. Then that would auto-update this as terminated. If, in fact, we reach the 20th of November, 2021, then a new one of these contracts is created because it's now auto-renewed into a second term. And this one is archived. So even if you have a year-on-year contract that goes for 40 years, you would have 40 of these in there showing that we've gone through this initial and renewal term period 40 times over and over. Just created. When it runs out of time, it duplicates itself and then archives itself away so that the active one is the only one that exists. And again, you'll be able to see those on the account itself right here on the right hand side. And I did kind of skip over this, but it's interesting / important to note that everything that's in blue is something that you can interact with. The black is literally just text written. So this will take me to the account. This would take me back to that opportunity I was on. From the opportunity, I can go to the artist or the account. From the opportunity, I can also go to that contract. I could go find more information out about Max. Let's find out how Max had filled out his form. Ethan is the manager, company name, user ID, contact information. So all of that's basically in there. Let's see if anything else is blue here. I don't believe so. Something we'll get into when we talk about post-release stuff are the release calendar submissions. And this one has a lot of lookup fields, so it ties back to the account, the opportunity, the track. It has different users for different roles. We also have links to external stuff like Label Engine here that you can interact with. And almost all objects, I think this is the opportunity. Yes, this is the opportunity. Almost all objects will have an account activity list, which shows you things that have been done. You can log a call or a new event here. You can actually use that integration with Gmail so that when you send an email out, so I am the contact here through my non-create email address. So if Max, as the owner of this, sends me an email as the manager of DeRealJON, all he has to do is hit log this email while he's in Gmail, and it'll actually add something to the activity thing here saying, hey, you send an email to Rob, here's a PDF of the email that you sent to him. Again, here's Chatter, but it allows us to send messages back and forth. Socials, this is a list of tweets. If you have the Twitter account, it will actually pull the Twitter update tweets for this client to this socials tab. And Slack here has, instead of having it out here on the left-hand side nav bar, Slack has been moved to its own inside section here. Marketing budgets, cash advances, approvals, those we'll all talk about in the advanced course. Files, almost every record has a file where you can just upload different things. Here you see a PSD file, a PNG, and a JPEG. There's also an MP3 and an MP4 attached to this particular account. And we already went over the tracks, so I don't have to go back there again. But those are the basic, the examples of the kind of the basic object records that we've talked about thus far. We'll go back and we're going to wrap this up quickly. So this, for those of you who are going to come to trainings about the more advanced stuff, here is a look at how that basic chart that I had above relates to some of the more advanced things that we're going to be talking about. Tracks, media budgets and budget line items, the release calendar, doing playlist pitching, and the product manager next, I think it's this Wednesday, we're doing tasking, tasks and projects. That's when we're going to dive into this project manager where you can actually create different kinds of projects and then have tasks with subtasks under each of those projects and assign each of these to different people. And it basically lets us keep track of everything. One of the important things to keep in mind about Salesforce, and one of the reasons that managers especially should really like it, is that if it exists in Salesforce, I can run a report on it. In fact, let me go here and let me just pull a report on something. Let's see what we have up at the top here. All right, I'm going to put the pop team on blast. Let's see what their delegated tasks. Oh no, this is my report, so you won't actually see the pop team stuff. It'll be me put on blast for my own not getting my task done. But so what this report is doing is looking at the task object, and it's saying what task has Rob delegated to someone else and what are their statuses. And because I delegate tasks to everyone, you can see that there's a big bunch of names here, and this is going to take forever to load because it's going to search through all the users who I've ever sent delegated tasks to. So let's not do that. And in fact, I have now stuttered Salesforce. So let's go back to reports if I can find that. Here we go. And we'll find a bit of a simpler. Here we go. Release calendar submissions report. This is looking at the release calendar object and just seeing what is the status of our different release calendar submissions projects. We have one that's in data collection and we have 4 that have no status. So here we have, honestly, we haven't been using this except for testing. We're making sure we have everything right. But you can see that we have 4 Run River North test, Gareth Emery test, and then 2 of my Rizzy Rob tests that have no status, because status is something new that we just added. And we have another Rizzy Rob test that has the status of data collection. But essentially, you can use these reports to pull any data, even time related. So I would be able to pull a report for the release calendar submissions that says, what of our release calendar submissions are in data collection and have been in data collection for more than 3 days? Because on our project, we know data collection should be no more than 3 days. So what is late, essentially? This you're allowed to pull that report. I can pull user reports. So I can say, I delegate about 10 tasks a day to Charles. Let me find out how many of those tasks are late based on the time to completion that we've put in as an example, and how many does he have currently late, how late is he usually, what averages. Anything that is time, number, or record based, you can pull a report on. I don't even know all of the ways that you as managers would be able to use this, but I'm sure that you guys would be able to come up with ways that you would want to track stuff, and then we can work together on building a report. And the report will come into play with the home screen. When you first log into Salesforce, everyone has an individual home screen that can look like this or can look like completely different than this. Cindy has a home screen that has, I believe, something like 10 graphs on it for different things, showing her basically a bird's eye view of prospects and leads and opportunities and tasking and the project manager and everything that she wants to see. So with one view, she can see where everything under her team is. I don't have that. I have a blank graph here, apparently. I have the fact that one of my opportunities is overdue. I have some news here, but because I don't have that many clients, it isn't able to go out and find news about my clients, so it gives me just the top news stories. Events for myself today, I have no calls today because I didn't put this in Salesforce. No tasks for today, but I do have recent records. You can see that we just went to the release calendar submissions report, the pop delegated task report. We were on the contract, the opportunity, and the account for Derail JON. And then this is more recent opportunities that have been updated. These are not necessarily ones that I have updated, but ones that I am following or that I have updated in the past, and it wants me to know that somebody else has updated. That's what they call key deals. It's stuff that you've interacted with a lot recently. So all that can be put on your home screen. I can put graphs for any report, even ones that aren't blank, on your home screen. We can look at creating tasks, whether it's a Salesforce task or the Milestone Cloud tasks, but the home screen is where we start with all of that stuff. But reporting is a very important aspect of Salesforce, so something to keep in mind. And I promised you a little earlier that we'd look at how the data is moving around within Create. On the top left side of the screen here, you'll see basically our current data breakdown, and you'll see that vendors, when it comes to payments, they are in contact with A&Rs, they're in contact with A&R support. Those folks update Salesforce. They also update the label engine team, or sorry, the accounting team. And then all that information is basically done manually. Label engine creates the portal updates. It creates statements that we send out to clients. Contracts are sent to clients. And there's a lot of crossing over that's done. As we move forward in the rest of this year and through 2021, it's going to look far more like what's on the bottom right. And that is keeping Salesforce, Label Engine, and NetSuite as basically this little triangle at the bottom, except for NetSuite and Label Engine will communicate through Salesforce to update records. So when a cash advance is requested, there are going to be certain things you're going to have to do in Salesforce, like getting the payment information from the client. That will have to be updated in Salesforce. When that's updated, then you can send it to Label Engine and start the process of getting an advance approved, or getting an advance sent. Once the accounting team through Label Engine marks the recoupable, it'll update in Portal, it'll update on the statements for that client for that month, and then it'll update Salesforce saying the recoupable's marked, we're ready to go. It'll then automatically send that to NetSuite, which will either directly or through Bill.com, depending on how someone is getting paid, send out payment to that person. But essentially, it cleans up a lot of this data that allows Salesforce to be the center where the digital rights teams and the A&R support teams are feeding data into Salesforce and then using APIs. We're able to automatically update things. This connection between vendor and A&R support, we've actually shorted around that, and now we have the vendors updating Salesforce directly. So we have a form that we can send to a vendor. When they fill out that form, it creates a new vendor record and then makes that vendor available for you as somebody using Salesforce to say, here is an invoice I need to pay a vendor. This is the vendor I need to pay. Attached to that vendor is the W-9, the PayPal sign-off sheet that accounting needs. And once those two things are there, then you can click the button to submit any invoice associated with that vendor to the accounting team. They'll update a recoupable if necessary and then make payment. But it's a lot. It might seem as complicated, but it's a lot less complicated because all the data is going to one central place, and then it allows it updating automatically via API. So that is everything that I had for this basic training. Anybody have questions, comments, thoughts about what we've gone over today?